It's the Sittin Sportside podcast.
Can't wait.
With Cody Marshall.
Did you just get here? Can you give him your notes?
And Eric Hanman.
I have dedicated my life to this team, okay?
Exclusively on 1045theteam.com.
And welcome into the podcast here, 1045theteam.com. I'm Eric Hanman.
And I am Cody Marshall.
There we go, teamwork. And we have really not talked much about the NFL in a while. I feel like it's been a long time coming on the Sittin Sportside podcast. Now, I have preached and promised that we are going to have a division preview podcast for every single division. That's 8 podcasts, plus fantasy football thoughts. That will probably start next week. We'll start some thoughts on that and maybe get into more specifics later on in the summer here.
Yeah.
But today's podcast is just a generic overview of what's going on in the NFL right now. And I guess there's really not much. Training camp has underway for every single team, I believe. And I guess right off the bat, I know there was something that Cody was irking to talk about. I don't know if he wants to start off on that or not. And it's not Ninkovich retiring. Okay, it's not Ninkovich retiring, but maybe it is. I don't know. What is it, Cody? What do you want to talk about today on the Sittin Sportside podcast, NFL edition?
First off, I'd like to congratulate Rob Ninkovich on a fantastic career with the New England Patriots. As much as I could not stand him while playing, because every time you announced his name, you pretty much knew he was doing something good. And when you're rooting for the Patriots to lose on a week-by-week basis, it really doesn't bode well for you. But, I mean, the guy performed really well at the linebacker position and was very key in that Patriots defense when a lot of people said that they were a defense that wasn't capable of winning championships at certain times. He certainly stepped up. So it'll be different to see him not with the New England Patriots when they take the field this year, but I think that him retiring was at a right time, and I don't think there was really much more that he could do as a football player.
Going out like Ray Lewis.
Now, the issue that I want to talk about, because it's in the news right now, it had died off for a while.
Has it ever really been not in the news?
Well, it died off for a while there.
Okay, all right.
Colin Kaepernick, there's some interest from the Baltimore Ravens because of their current situation. Joe Flacco has a back injury, and from what I hear, it's not serious. He's maybe out for a week of training camp. Seems to be pretty minimal on the outside. Their backup quarterback is Ryan Mallett, and based on what the sources are saying, they're not very confident in Ryan Mallett's abilities at the quarterback position, and they just signed an arena football quarterback
Training camp, right? I mean, come in.
To training camp.
Right.
So, I'll start off. I'll ask you the question. If you are an NFL GM and you can pretty much take any of the 32 NFL teams and apply this to, not saying that he's got to start, but even as a backup, would you sign Colin Kaepernick?
I'm going to say yes, but I would like for you to maybe go on your spiel first, and I will play second fiddle to Cody Marshall on this part of the, because I'm going to say yes to that question, but I have my own little thoughts in my head of what I think about the situation. But I'm going to play second fiddle, like I said, because I think you have the more powerful for speech in this certain situation.
So if I was asked the same question, the answer would be yes. I'm going to tell you a few reasons why, and I get it. It could be a popular or unpopular decision amongst people depending on which side you're looking at it from. Are you looking at it from a social aspect, or are you looking at it from a football aspect based on performance and statistics? I have followed Colin Kaepernick from the time he was a sophomore, I believe it was, at the University of Nevada. I thought that him and Vaital were an exceptional duo to watch whenever you had the chance to, which being the University of Nevada usually was late in the season when they faced either Boise State, when Boise State was the top program in college football, or in a bowl game. He is the only player, as a fan of the San Francisco 49ers, that when we have drafted, I thought, you know what, I would love for us to draft Colin Kaepernick. In the second round, we drafted Colin Kaepernick. I never thought that he would have an opportunity to start. Then, obviously, Alex Smith goes down in the 2012 season.
Right, and remember that. I remember that season watching a Jets game, and remember him getting some play as a kind of a wildcat type formations against the Jets that year, and the Niners absolutely destroyed the Jets.
That was 34-0, right?
Yeah, I think it was that. And he had some big-time plays. Little did I know that he'd be that much more important that season.
Then he just takes over. Jim Harbaugh is the head coach and decides to stick with Colin Kaepernick. That was something I didn't foresee either. I thought for sure they'd go back to Alex Smith. Now we're in a situation where we've got a guy who is, as many people are saying, is blackballed from many, if not all, of the NFL teams. And when you see the signings that have come before him, you're thinking to yourself, how can this happen? The Blaine Gabbert. Now, this is what Blaine Gabbert was the starter for the San Francisco 49ers last year, and he was replaced by Colin Kaepernick. So
True.
as far as if you're ranking guys, Colin Kaepernick on that alone has to be ranked higher than Blaine Gabbert.
It's not like they won. All right, I'll get it. They both won. I mean, he won what? The only game, right? Kaepernick won the only game. No, Gabbert
won the opening night.
The opening night he did against the Rams. Still, they're just not. They were. My only argument to that would be like they both had really bad supporting casts.
They did. He was on the worst offense in football. Kaepernick threw for 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And his best receiver was Jeremy Curley. I just, that and alone is amazing to me. Aside from that, the NFL has been bombarded with player issues off the field, drugs, domestic violence, in some cases sexual assault. And now here's a man who did not commit a crime. I get it. It's wrong in the eyes of some because of the way he promoted his message, because he took a knee during the national anthem. But in the legal standpoint, he did absolutely nothing wrong other than offend people in a society that, in general, we've pretty much gotten kind of soft. And now he can't get a job in a league that he's proven that the guy can play. He's led the 49ers to a Super Bowl, and some people can say, well, Alex Smith helped him get there. Well, that's great, but without Colin Kaepernick's footwork, they probably don't beat the Packers in the first round of the playoffs that year. And then again the following year. If you ask a Green Bay Packers fan which San Francisco 49er player they hate the most, it might be Colin Kaepernick. And now here's a Baltimore Ravens team that has lost Joe Flacco for a week of training camp, a wishy-washy Ryan Mallett, and an arena football quarterback that you've just signed coming in. And you're hesitant to push the button on a guy just to at least give him the chance to work out with your team in training camp. Now, there's too many. The New York Jets right now, we've talked about their quarterback situation over and over and over again. Who is their starting quarterback right now?
It's Josh McCown.
I didn't even know Josh McCown was on the team. Was he signed in the offseason?
Yes, you saw in the offseason.
There are just so many teams. I mean, I get it. I don't expect him to come on as a starter. I expect him to back up somewhere at least for a couple weeks.
See, Mike, the original question, right? Would you sign Colin Kaepernick? I think sure. I mean, the question is, it's a fair question. I think the LA Rams signed, Dan Orlovsky? I would probably take Colin Kaepernick over Orlovsky any day of the week. But this is where I give NFL GMs the benefit of the doubt in terms of I am not a fly on the wall on any of the conversations between Colin Kaepernick and the GMs, and then obviously Kaepernick's agent, and I haven't heard anything from any of the big time guys like Schefter telling me what Kaepernick is seeking. Is he okay with coming in on a really small deal to come in and compete at a training camp? Or is he looking at teams like the New York Jets or the Cleveland Browns saying, I probably should be your starting quarterback, so I really want starting quarterback money? I don't know in those circumstances. I mean, I don't think that arena football guy is very expensive. I don't think Dan Orlovsky, I forgot how, I don't know how much they even signed for or what the signings are there. But I doubt they're really upwards of anything too significant on the money wise. But I do agree with you that Kaepernick probably is a guy that should get an opportunity to compete somewhere for a starting quarterback position. And if he didn't work out at a place, he should at least have an opportunity to play on a team in garbage time, if you will, what I call some of these preseason games, to show other teams almost like a tryout. And when a quarterback goes down mid-season, which is most likely going to happen somewhere, then he had an opportunity to show someone that. I would at least think that he deserves that chance of just being a veteran of the NFL. There has been the stats are coming out now that the dip in viewership was due to the kneeling of the national anthem situation there. And that obviously is the main reason why he is getting blackballed. And so I think at some point that won't be an issue anymore. And I guess it's too fresh now to where it still is, I guess. So I just don't know when this is going to end and which team is going to step up and do it. I feel like it would have to be a team that's in a position to possibly, like the Ravens, that feel like they have a good team. But if their main guy, Flacco's out, I think that's when they probably would be like, all right, we know Flacco's probably gone for the year, or not done for the year, but like done for an extended period of time. Now might be the time to actually bring in someone that should be the starting quarterback and not Ryan Mallett, who apparently threw 5 interceptions in a practice squad game.
And you and I just talked about how we were at the Ravens-Jets game last year, and it was unbeknownst to ourselves. I don't think
we didn't know who each other
yet.
were before, but we were there, both together
But
somewhere.
the Baltimore Ravens, right now, and maybe for the past 2 years, their best player has been Justin Tucker, their kicker. If he doesn't score, they don't score.
They don't convert, right? They don't convert for touchdowns. It's a lot of settling for field goals, and he's been probably the best, if not one of the best kickers in all of NFL for sure. Their offense, I need to bring up the numbers at some point, but in that game, I never thought that was the first professional game I've ever been to. I never thought that I would see as horrific an offensive performance as the Baltimore Ravens had. I mean, I believe they scored early on a botched punt that ended up going to the end zone, and they recovered that one. I think so.
There was 5 or 6, I think, Justin Tucker field goals.
He had quite a few that game. Geno Smith started that game, I believe, for the Jets and went down, and Fitzpatrick probably had the best game of his season there. If not the last game of the season would have been his best, but still.
And a team that is consistently struggling to find a running back. In the last few years alone, you've gone through Justin Forsett.
They still have Terrence West and Kenneth Dixon.
Kenneth Dixon and Taliaferro.
Yeah.
As your running back.
Lorenzo.
And no one has really,
they brought in Danny Woodhead this year, so we'll see if that helps out in the passing game.
But like I'm saying, your offense right now is so limited. Bringing Colin Kaepernick in gives you a dual threat and can help out with your running backs because they don't have to carry it all the time.
Let's not forget Steve Smith retired, and now your receivers are really only Mike Wallace and Bashard Perriman. Definitely, especially if Flacco's not going to be healthy. I think you got to bring up some kind of dynamic, like Ryan Mallett didn't work out in Houston, who needed a quarterback, so he wouldn't be. I don't think he's gonna be able to lead this team. Kaepernick at least has that for him, right? He's more of a dynamic player that kind of can rush the football at the same time and even make the deep throws, right? Because he's always had a strong arm. He throws bullets, right? Sometimes a little too hard for receivers to catch. That's how strong of an arm that he has. But is Flacco or Mallett closer to what Flacco is? There's that argument, right? That the way that this offense is trying to be run by the Harbaugh, well, I believe the offensive coordinator,
Greg Roman. Greg Roman's on the Baltimore Ravens staff. He was the offensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers when Harbaugh was there. And this is what I'm saying.
But what kind of offense are they trying to run?
And John Harbaugh is the head coach. There is no greater ambassador for the sport of football than his brother Jim Harbaugh. Going around the country, doing the work that he does with missions, trying to spread the game of football to people in South America. I get it. Jim Harbaugh himself is a very eccentric guy. He's a very big personality with the things that he does. I joked about how he was the only guy of now there's 14 teams in the Big Ten that did not wear a suit to Big Ten Media Day, but that is because he is Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
He has said that the greatest compliment you can give to any football player is to tell reporters, people, he is a football player. He did the same thing with Anquan Bolden. He had Colin Kaepernick's back, and I can't believe that the only reason that he had his back is because he was his quarterback while he was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. The guy has seen firsthand what this kid can do. And now he's told his brother, hey, look, this kid can play. You got to give him a chance. And John when they faced each other in the Super Bowl, said the best football coach in the game is his brother Jim. So if he says something, I'm going with I'm betting the house.
Dinner,
I bet the ranch. Jim Harbaugh's right.
Bet the ranch. But at Thanksgiving dinner, who's kind of bragging over who, you know?
No, I know. I know. But it should have been pass interference in the end zone. But,
yeah.
But, I mean, look at Jim Harbaugh comes in the San Francisco 49ers. They had losing records. Takes them to 13-3 the first year he's there. They end up going to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, no need to talk about the horrificness of your San Francisco 49ers, how it was run last
I know.
Few years.
I thought Trent Baalke should have been relieved of his job as soon as they fired Harbaugh.
So who's your favorite? Who'd you like better, Tom Sula or Kelly?
Tom Sula. I hated Chip Kelly. I don't think Chip Kelly belongs in the NFL.
Well, he was not given a fair shake in San Francisco. They kind of came in and said, "You got nothing," and just like.
But he didn't do anything to make nothing into anything. I mean, like, at least try.
Like he did try.
At what?
I mean, look, Torrey Smith.
If he tried, Torrey Smith probably would have been our best receiver. Probably. He should have been.
Like,
the only thing that got better was Carlos Hyde carried the football.
To make lemonade, and they had, I don't know.
We had oranges, and you can't make lemonade from oranges.
Right, exactly. It was pretty brutal. I don't think even like Belichick would have made that team a playoff team.
Colin Kaepernick throughout his career has not really had. He had maybe the one bad year when they went 8-8, and that was the final year that Jim Harbaugh ended up getting fired. I get it, but
they beat the Panthers, right? The year the Panthers were very good.
Yeah, they beat in that year. They beat the Packers. They beat the Panthers. They lost to the Seahawks.
That was the don't you open your mouth about the best game.
Yeah. So many times we give second chances to all these guys. And here's the thing. Was Muhammad Ali a popular figure when he decided to avoid the draft years and years and years ago? Obviously,
no.
You and I were not around for this.
No, definitely not.
And now today he's regarded as one of the greatest boxer of all time. Now I'm not saying Colin Kaepernick will ever be the greatest.
There's a talent discrepancy there in terms of the best of their sport.
But here's what I'm talking about. They were and are both social activists in their respective things, and they did unpopular things at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't necessarily punish Muhammad Ali. We forgave Muhammad Ali. Now, how long does it take for us?
He had a lot of other things going on with like the Nation of Islam. That there's some stuff that just I don't even know if I even understand everything that happened with him. But he was very, you know. There's some good YouTube videos of Muhammad Ali answering questions.
But in a world of
I'll look those up if I were you.
Domestic violence, sexual assault.
Well, that's just the thing, right? Like,
and drugs. We are picking this out to blackball this player.
Well, those are things that people get suspended for. And Kaepernick didn't get suspended
because he didn't technically do anything wrong, and that's the thing. He's kind of like Pete Rose. Pete Rose bet on baseball, and as a result has put himself in as his book says, prison without bars. He's banned from being into the Hall of Fame, and on maybe, logically, people would hope, Colin Kaepernick is in a temporary prison himself. I mean, I just don't understand how we can be so outraged by what he's done, whereas the Baylor University, their college football program is looking at the potentially have covering up 40 cases of sexual assault under Art Briles, and it kind of gets pushed under the rug, and we're just not calling for a death penalty against Baylor University's football program, much like happened to SMU when SMU paid for a player to come to their team.
Sorry, I was zoning out trying to find this video that I thought was funny, and then now all of a sudden we're talking about college.
I'm just trying to figure out where we are as far as why we can't give this man a job, even if he isn't on an NFL roster when the first week of the season, when the first week of the preseason comes. Why this man has not been in training camp working on it. The man does everything you're supposed to do. He seeked out Kurt Warner to get better before Blaine Gabbert got the starting job for the 49ers. The man does what he needs to do to get better as a quarterback. And we're all of a sudden, people are saying, oh, he's bad. Well, he's not an RG3. The guy hasn't been hurt as bad as RG3 has. Pretty much had like a career-ending injury. I don't remember.
Well, RG3's not signed either.
But RG3 has not been productive over the last few years. Now, Colin Kaepernick doesn't have any accolades, but was he productive on a team that had absolutely nothing around him? 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions? When you've got an offense that's the worst in the league, probably very close to being worse, if not worse, than the 0-16 Detroit Lions season. If the Baltimore Ravens do not sign him, or somebody does not sign him to a backup role, I think it'll be an injustice to a guy who has been, up until he started protesting, one of the most successful dual-threat quarterbacks in recent NFL history. Aside from Russell Westbrook. Or Russell Wilson.
Well, he's definitely got a couple of years there that definitely would support that, sure. Michael Vick, we know what he said, but that...
But when was the last time Michael Vick was relevant?
Well, I guess...
I mean, Michael Vick came to the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and what did he do for him?
Well, the Steelers is a very bad example. That wasn't very good. New York Jets, these are late in his career. We're not talking in his prime. And
he did dogfight. And I get it. We were mad at him for a while. We let it go. That was a crime. He got arrested for it.
And every single team he went to protest, people showed up to protest.
And this is the thing, is you are a $1 million industry. I'm telling you right now, if he plays, fans are going to come to your games. You might lose a percentage of fans if he plays for you, but you're not going to lose money. You're not going to all of a sudden you're not going to lose revenue. I mean, you might lose a little bit, but not enough to like all of a sudden put you in danger. You're a $1 million, maybe $1 billion industry.
This is like the reverse. Well, first off, I was about to say this is the reverse Tim Tebow, but then again, why is Tim Tebow not a quarterback in the NFL?
Because the New York Jets didn't even give him a chance.
Right.
You brought him onto your roster and didn't use him.
Didn't use him as starting quarterback, but last time it was a starting quarterback.
It's kind of like you put plates in a china cabinet just to look at him.
Exactly. But in a way, isn't he kind of like the reverse Tim Tebow? Like people bring in Tim Tebow for the baseball, right, just to get some fans in the seats. Well, they're afraid to bring in Colin Kaepernick because they're afraid that people aren't going to come to their games because of it. But that, to your point, I think that's a little ridiculous. To say that because no one's going to be sitting there like I'm not going to come if I have to look down on that sideline and see Colin Kaepernick. That part doesn't make sense. At the very least, I totally agree with you that he should at least have an opportunity in training camp to play in some kind of preseason games because those are more really they're getting ready for the season, but a lot of it is for some other people to take a look at and say, oh, what did this person do when they played in that preseason game number 4 or whatever. And should we sign him off this person's practice squad or whatnot?
Now let's assume that the Ravens do sign him, just hypothetically. You can't tell me that a Ravens fan, if Joe Flacco were to get hurt and Colin Kaepernick stepped in, and
is it common for someone not to talk? I mean, like, do you think it'd be wise for Kaepernick to come on ESPN and talk about this stuff, or do you think because really you haven't heard a peep out of him since, which is either I think it's a good thing, but at the same time. Should he be out there saying saying anything, or is it good to be quiet? Because I kind of can see both ways to maybe hear from the source itself and think where is he coming at and where or because if he came on, he'd probably say, oh well, I'm not going to say anything about that. That would be the right thing, right? Like if they ask him, do you think you're getting blackballed? The answer would be, that's not for me to say. But then again, it'd be nice to see him as if like this guy is really hankering to play, which you have to imagine he is, but it'd be nice to actually see that. I don't know.
Well, let's go back to the Tim Tebow thing. When Tim Tebow was in that phase where he was going from one team to another and he was participating in training camps and
first the Patriots, then the Eagles, right?
He wasn't really interviewed. I mean, aside from like maybe press conferences after training camp,
right?
Outside the season, he really wasn't interviewed.
The videos of him running in the rain.
So it doesn't surprise me that Colin Kaepernick hasn't been interviewed yet. I mean, you look at his Twitter and everything. He's been donating to all these charities and everything. He's been a good human being. I mean,
Then, yeah.
aside from
That's never been guaranteed in anything in life. Bro.
Right. And aside from trying to promote one message, and he said, I'm going to stand for the national anthem.
He did say that, but
was he effective in what he did? I think he was. I mean, if he wasn't effective in what he did, I don't think we'd be talking about it to this day. I don't think it'd be a big issue.
Right now we're talking more about him, not necessarily about that issue.
Right.
But
this is what I'm saying is that he got his year in.
Yeah.
He's ready to play and ready to focus on play.
I mean, and hopefully he did a lot for that. I mean, it's become a conversation in our country for sure.
But let's speak hypothetically. Let's say he goes to the Ravens. Joe Flacco gets hurt. He steps in. If they win,
see, there was a big problem. Okay, I mean, you can finish it. So the big problem was that he didn't even vote in the election. Not that he thinks anything would be done, but now he's actually putting his money where his mouth is. Right? He's giving things, and that part is very good.
If they win with him at quarterback, the fans I know they always rally around the Baltimore Ravens. They're a young franchise for the most part when you compare them to the other NFL teams that have had a really, really strong fan base over the years. And how symbolic would it be for him to come in and play for the Baltimore Ravens, for the city that has been at one point, a quote-unquote powder keg of race relations because of the murder or death of Freddie Gray. I think that would become full circle with this issue. Now, I'm not saying it would change anything, but I think that would be a perfect place socially and athletically in the sports world to play for Colin Kaepernick in Baltimore. But I just cannot wrap my head around, and people could say, oh, well, you're a 49ers fan, that's why you're supporting him. The guy can play. If the guy couldn't play, Alex Smith probably wouldn't have gone to the Kansas City Chiefs. Because they would have needed somebody. Blaine Gabbert probably wouldn't have lost his job.
Playing, yeah. No, the Blaine Gabbert point is definitely duly noted. I mean, if he's got a job, then Kaepernick definitely should have some kind of opportunity at least.
And like you said, if he's asking a whole lot of money, then I get it. Then that becomes an issue. The Niners paid him a lot of money after he went to the Super Bowl and that he got that new contract written up. Does he deserve that kind of money now? No. Does he deserve more than... Does he deserve starter money? Like your average starter money. Like say...
Yeah.
Let's throw out a middle-of-the-road starting quarterback in the NFL.
No, I don't know who. Would you call Cousins middle of the road or above?
I mean, he's probably above now, but he keeps getting franchise tag. If everything goes right, he's going to be with the Niners in a couple of years, if not next year. Would you say Teddy Bridgewater's middle of the road? He keeps getting hurt, so that's really hard to...
Sam Bradford?
Does he... Okay, fair enough. Does he deserve more money or the same amount of money as Sam Bradford? I think he does. I think he has proven more as a player than what Sam Bradford has proven.
Yeah, I think Sam Bradford's still kind of like making money and getting jobs based on his college play. As crazy
Ryan
as that
Fitzpatrick.
seemed.
If Ryan Fitzpatrick was on an NFL team right now...
the Jets didn't pay him. They did the right thing.
But I'm saying, if he got a contract right now, would you pay Colin Kaepernick more than Ryan Fitzpatrick? Keep in mind.
Well, think about that.
Keep in mind.
Well, let's talk about
Colin Kaepernick threw four interceptions last season. And I get it. He wasn't a starter the entire year.
That's actually
Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 6 interceptions in one game.
But think about this. This conversation last year was about Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Yankees. The Jets hadn't signed him yet. He's coming off the best season possibly of his career. They were 10-6. They almost made the playoffs. And the one thing the Jets didn't have was a quarterback. And he wanted this long-term deal, and they didn't give it to him. And they waited to sign him to that 1-year deal. He stunk up the joint, and now he's on the Bucs as a backup. But that was the question. And that's the information that I said earlier that we don't have on Kaepernick. What is he demanding? Where does he want? What does he want? Does he want this certain amount of money? And that part we don't know. And I'm sure that will come out maybe eventually. I don't know. But if someone, because you'd think guys like Schefter would be on this if someone offered him something and he turned it down, which I doubt happened. So it's kind of ridiculous to me to think that the Ravens wouldn't give him an opportunity, especially if they're going to go with an arena football quarterback. That's a little bit
And I just don't get
too much.
When he visited with the Seahawks and Pete Carroll says he's too good to back up for us.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't at all. And Pete Carroll, trust me, I was not a fan of USC when he was there. Was not a fan of Seattle Seahawks. He's kind of grown on me a little bit. But that was probably one of the dumbest things that you could have said as someone who is at least in talks with a free agent at the time. Because it makes no sense to say that someone is too good to back up for you as your reason for not pursuing a contract with them after meeting with them. Because you're basically saying, hey, he's better than our backup quarterback, but we're going to stick with our backup quarterback that we've already got.
Is that Terrell Boykin from TCU? Believe it is. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what the right answer in the situation is, but I hope that he gets an opportunity to play in preseason because, to your point, that actually might increase revenue sales maybe of a preseason game.
The fact that his jersey was one of the top-selling jerseys for the last season, I think says a lot.
It goes to show that he definitely has a support system out there, and he's gotten a lot of support from fellow players as well. And
it's amazing. You look at Twitter, the amount of people who have a love of the game of football support him. Because it's not about what is everybody's message. It's about, okay, who do we like to watch play the game? And everybody that I've seen who has taken that approach to it has said, you know what? I want to see him play. It's almost similar to Alex Rodriguez. Gets banned an entire year. Everybody hates him because he's doing steroids, but he comes back and is able to play.
Right, he was under contract.
And some people are still...
I don't know who would have signed him, though, if he wasn't under contract. That's an interesting question, and we'll never know the answer to that. And
some people still were excited to see Alex Rodriguez play, even after he was suspended for performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
And that, I think that there are so many situations that you could tie into this, and it doesn't make sense as to why he is the only one suffering the consequences that he is.
All right, man. I really appreciate this conversation. I think it's a good little start to our NFL season on the podcast and on Sittin Sportside podcast. And hopefully by the next time we podcast, or at the very least, by the first kickoff of the NFL preseason, we see a Colin Kaepernick sighting maybe somewhere on a training camp field to at least give an opportunity to show that, I should be on a team, or at least give him an opportunity to show a team that maybe midseason needs a quarterback that he'd be one to possibly consider signing. So that was Cody Marshall. Cody, thank you. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm
Eric Henman. Make sure to keep it posted on 1045theteam.com and youtube.com/team1045 for future NFL podcasts, because we're going to have, like I said, a lot of them. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week on the Sittin Sportside podcast.